The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the bustling city of Verona. Amidst the evening chatter, laughter, and the distant clinking of glasses, Lila O'Connor hurried through the crowded streets, her vibrant red hair catching the light like a beacon. She had always thought her hair set her apart, but today it felt like a weight, dragging her down as memories of her past floated to the surface. It was a day like any other, filled with the mundane rhythm of her life, work, errands, and the occasional dinner with friends. Yet, deep within her, a storm brewed, a sense of restlessness that she could not shake off. Before the story unfolds, thank you for being here. These romances are still growing, just like this space. If you feel connected to this story, please like and subscribe. Your support truly makes a difference. Now, let me tell you the story. As she navigated through a charming piazza, Lila's thoughts drifted back to Marcus, her ex. Their relationship had been a whirlwind, filled with passion but ultimately tainted by betrayal. The sting of his departure still lingered, and Lila often found herself questioning if she could ever truly move on. The heartache was a familiar ache, one she tried to mask with a busy schedule and forced smiles. That evening, Lila had plans to meet her friends at a local wine bar, a cozy spot nestled in the heart of the city. She arrived early, hoping to find a moment of solace in a glass of Chianti before they arrived. The rich aroma of aged wood and the soft melodies of a distant guitarist filled the air, wrapping around her like a warm embrace. She settled into a corner table, the dim light casting a soft glow on her face as she ordered her drink. Moments later, her friends arrived, their laughter breaking through her thoughts. They settled into their seats, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. As the wine poured, so did the stories of their lives, careers, aspirations, and love. Lila found herself listening more than speaking, her heart heavy with the unspoken memories of Marcus. Just as she began to feel comfortable, one of her friends, Ava, brought up her latest romantic escapades. "You know, Lila, it's time to put yourself out there again," Ava suggested, nudging her playfully. "Forget about Marcus. He doesn't deserve your thoughts." Lila forced a smile, the familiar tension tightening in her chest. "I don't know, it's complicated," she replied, trying to divert the conversation. But Ava was relentless, her enthusiasm infectious. "You need someone who appreciates you. What about that Italian guy you met last month? I heard he's a total catch." Lila couldn't help but chuckle. The Italian guy was a mystery, handsome and charming but wrapped in an aura of danger that intrigued her. "I don't think he's looking for anything serious," she replied, her mind flickering back to the fleeting moments they shared. His name was Luca Romano, and he was a fixture in the local scene, often seen in the company of powerful men who commanded respect and fear. "Well, don't let that stop you. What do you have to lose?" Ava pressed, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "You should message him tonight." As her friends continued to banter, Lila felt a twinge of excitement mixed with apprehension. Perhaps it was time to step outside her comfort zone, to embrace a little chaos in her life. But before she could fully commit to the thought, a figure entered the bar that caught her breath. Luca Romano walked in, his presence commanding the attention of everyone around him. He was tall, with dark hair slicked back and piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold secrets. He wore a tailored suit that accentuated his broad shoulders, and every step he took radiated confidence. The atmosphere shifted, and Lila's heart raced as he scanned the room, his gaze landing on her. Time seemed to slow as their eyes locked. For a moment, everything else faded away, the laughter, the clinking glasses, the chatter of her friends. There was something magnetic about him, a pull that she couldn't explain. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, he approached her table. "Lila O'Connor," he said, his voice smooth and deep, sending shivers down her spine. "I didn't expect to see you here." Yeah," she stammered, caught off guard. "I came out for a drink with friends." He nodded, his expression unreadable. "I hope you don't mind if I join you." Lila's friends exchanged glances, excitement bubbling beneath the surface as they welcomed him to their table. The conversation flowed easily, a mixture of flirtation and intrigue. Luca was charming, his laughter rich and genuine, and Lila found herself drawn to him despite her best efforts to maintain her guard. But as the night wore on, she felt the familiar pang of anxiety creeping in, especially when Ava casually mentioned Marcus. "You know, Lila, I think you should just forget him. He's old news." The room grew silent, the air thick with tension. Lila's eyes flicked to Luca, and for a brief moment, she saw a flicker of something in his expression: concern? Anger? But just as quickly, it vanished, replaced by his signature cool demeanor. "Old news can be hard to forget," he said softly, his gaze fixed on her. The weight of his words hung in the air, and Lila felt exposed, as if he could see right through her facade. "Yeah, I guess so," she replied, her heart racing. The connection between them was undeniable, but it also felt dangerous, like a spark that could ignite a fire. As the night progressed, the atmosphere became charged with unspoken desires and the thrill of the unknown. Lila couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change everything. As the evening drew to a close and she said her goodbyes, she felt a mix of excitement and dread, unsure of what lay ahead. The magnetic pull between her and Luca promised danger, but also a chance at something new. Little did she know, the path she was about to embark on would intertwine their fates in ways she never imagined. As the night continued to unfold, Lila sat at the table, her heart still racing from the unexpected presence of Luca. He was everything she had imagined and more, and yet, the tension in the room was palpable. Ava kept chatting animatedly, sharing stories from their day, but Lila found it difficult to focus. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Luca, who had settled into the conversation with an ease that belied the intensity of his gaze fixed upon her. Just then, Ava leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "So, Lila, what's the deal with you and Marcus? Is he really worth your time? I mean, look at this guy," she gestured towards Luca, who was engaged in a light conversation with another friend, his laughter deep and captivating. "Why not give someone like him a chance? He seems intriguing." Lila felt a flush creep up her cheeks as she thought about Marcus. The memories were bittersweet. He had been her first love, and their relationship had been filled with passion, but also a fair amount of pain. "It's complicated, Ava. Marcus was, well, he was my first love, but things ended badly. I just don't know if I'm ready to dive back into that world," she said, her voice wavering slightly. Ava rolled her eyes, exasperated. "You've been saying that for too long. You need to move on. Besides, this is your chance to have some fun. Just look at Luca, he's a total catch. You can't let fear hold you back. You've got to take a leap of faith sometimes." With a nervous laugh, Lila glanced back at Luca, who caught her gaze and offered her a warm smile, his eyes sparkling with something that made her heart skip a beat. "You know, I think he really is something special," she murmured, her mind racing. But before she could contemplate it further, the conversation shifted dramatically when Ava decided to bring up Marcus again. "You know, Lila, I think you should just forget him. He's old news," Ava declared, the words hanging heavily in the air. Lila's stomach twisted, and she could feel the heat rise in her cheeks. She shot a glance toward Luca, who had suddenly gone quiet, his expression becoming unreadable. The room felt like it had frozen, the laughter and chatter fading into the background as she sensed the tension. "Old news can be hard to forget," Luca said softly, his voice breaking through the silence, capturing everyone's attention. His gaze was fixed on Lila, and for a fleeting moment, she felt completely exposed. It was as if he was unraveling her thoughts, peeling back the layers of her heart. She struggled to find her voice, feeling cornered by the weight of his words and the scrutiny of her friends. "Yeah, I guess so," she replied, her heart racing uncontrollably. Lila could sense a storm brewing between the two of them, the air charged with an unspoken connection. Luca's dark eyes seemed to hold a universe of secrets, and she was drawn to him despite the caution that whispered in the back of her mind. After a few moments of heavy silence, the conversation around the table resumed, but Lila felt an electric tension lingering between her and Luca. He leaned closer, his confident demeanor returning as he spoke with her again. "You know, Lila, sometimes the past can haunt us, but it doesn't have to define our future," he said, his voice low and intimate. She could almost hear the unspoken promise behind his words. "Do you really believe that?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. The flicker of vulnerability in his expression was surprising, and she found herself captivated by the depth of his gaze. "Absolutely," he replied, a hint of sincerity lacing his tone. "Life is too short to be shackled by what once was. We owe it to ourselves to embrace what's ahead." Lila felt a spark ignite within her, fueled by his conviction. Maybe he was right. Maybe it was time to let go of the past and open herself up to new possibilities. As the night wore on, they shared stories and laughter, the initial tension slowly dissipating, replaced by a simmering chemistry that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Lila found herself leaning into the conversation, her laughter mingled with Luca's, creating a melody that resonated in her heart. She had never felt this way before, and it frightened her. Luca's presence was magnetic, and she couldn't help but notice how he commanded the attention of the room. Yet, within their private exchanges, there was an undeniable intimacy that made her feel special, cherished even. He was a man of power, and she was drawn to him like a moth to a flame. But lurking beneath the surface was a nagging doubt. Just as she began to feel comfortable, she caught glimpses of his world, dangerous and chaotic. What kind of man was he really? The thoughts swirled around in her mind, and just as she was about to delve deeper into the conversation, Ava chimed in again. "Okay, Lila," Ava said, her teasing tone breaking the moment. "You've got to ask him out. You can't let a guy like this slip away. What do you say, Luca? Are you up for a date with our girl?" Luca's gaze shifted to Lila, and the room fell silent again, waiting for her response. She felt her heart race, her breath hitching in her throat. Would he say yes? Would he even want to? "Well, she began, but the words felt stuck as she searched for the right way to voice her feelings. Before she could finish, Luca's lips curled into a smirk, his confidence radiating. "I think a date sounds like a splendid idea," he said, his eyes glinting with mischief. Lila's heart soared, but she could also sense the weight of his intentions, a hint of danger lurking just beneath the surface. As the conversation resumed, laughter echoed around her, yet Lila felt the world narrowing down to just the two of them. This was the moment she had been waiting for, and yet, every instinct told her to tread carefully. The excitement of a new connection was intoxicating, but she had to remember the reality of the world they inhabited. The night wore on, and as her friends bid their goodbyes, Lila felt a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. She glanced at Luca, who was now standing beside her, his presence a comforting warmth. "Shall we?" he asked, extending a hand towards the exit. Lila hesitated for a moment, weighing her options, but something deep within her urged her to take that leap of faith. "Yes," she replied softly, feeling a rush of anticipation course through her veins as she took his hand. The adventure had just begun, and with it, the promise of new experiences and untold stories. If only she knew what awaited her in the shadows of his world, she might have paused to reconsider. But for now, she was ready to embrace whatever came next. As they stepped out into the cool night air, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something monumental, a thrilling tale of romance and danger that would change her life forever. Lila felt her heart race as the atmosphere shifted between her and Luca. The weight of his silence after her mention of her ex hung heavy in the air, thickening the tension that had been building all night. It was as if a sudden chill had enveloped them, the warmth of their earlier laughter fading into the background. She glanced at him, trying to gauge his reaction, but his expression remained inscrutable, like a stone wall. "Did I say something wrong?" she asked, the nervous edge creeping into her voice. The vibrant conversations of their friends faded into the background as her focus honed in on Luca. She could see the flickering candlelight reflecting in his dark eyes, creating a contrast that made them appear even more piercing. Luca shifted slightly, breaking eye contact for the briefest moment. Lila's stomach twisted at the thought that she might have pushed him too far. "No, not wrong," he finally spoke, his voice low and measured. "Just unexpected." "Unexpected?" Lila echoed, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Is it unusual for someone to have a past?" The words slipped out before she could consider the implications. She felt vulnerable, exposed under his intense scrutiny. He leaned back, his demeanor shifting slightly as he regarded her with newfound interest. Everyone has a past, Lila. But not everyone talks about it openly, he replied, his tone carrying a hint of challenge. I suppose I just didn't expect you to bring it up so soon. Lila swallowed hard, her mind racing. She had hoped to share a piece of herself, to connect with him on a deeper level, but now it felt like she had inadvertently opened a door she wasn't ready to walk through. I didn't mean to make things awkward, she admitted, her voice dropping to a whisper. It's just part of who I am. Everyone has layers, Lucas said, tilting his head slightly as if studying her. And sometimes those layers are best left unpeeled. His gaze softened for a moment, but the intensity of his earlier demeanor returned quickly. What matters is who you choose to be now. Lila pondered his words, the truth of them resonating within her. The past was indeed a part of her, but she was ready to step into a new chapter, especially with someone like Luca. However, the shadows of his world loomed large, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding parts of himself too. Feeling a surge of determination, she decided to change the subject. What about you? Do you have a past you're trying to run from? She watched him closely, hoping to draw him into the openness she craved. He chuckled softly, but there was an edge to it that made her uneasy. You could say that. But some things are better left unsaid. The way he said it sent a chill down her spine, as if there were secrets lurking just beneath the surface of his charming facade. Maybe, she replied, her heart pounding in her chest. But what if those secrets could help me understand you better? She leaned in slightly, feeling emboldened by the moment. I want to know the real you, Luca. For a heartbeat, the world around them faded away, and it was just the two of them in that small corner of the room, surrounded by the buzz of laughter and clinking glasses. Luca's expression shifted, a flicker of something vulnerable passing through his eyes before he masked it again with his usual confidence. You're brave, Lila. Most people don't want to know the truth behind the curtain. Maybe I'm just curious, she said playfully, but there was a deeper truth in her words. Or maybe I just want to know if I can trust you. His eyes narrowed slightly, and she could sense the weight of his thoughtfulness. Trust is a delicate thing. It's earned, not given freely. Lila nodded, feeling the seriousness of his words sink in. Then let's start earning it, shall we? I want to know what makes you tick, Luca. She smiled, hoping to lighten the mood again, but the tension still lingered. All right, he said, his voice low and steady. But do you really want to dive into the depths of my world? Before she could answer, Ava joined them again, her bright laughter cutting through the moment. You two look deep in conversation. What's going on? She asked, a teasing smile playing on her lips. We were just getting to know each other, Lila replied, forcing a casual tone despite the storm of emotions swirling within her. Ava raised an eyebrow, clearly sensing the charged atmosphere. Well, don't get too lost in the depths, she warned, her voice light yet knowing. Remember, he's a mafia boss. There's more to him than meets the eye. Luca smirked, his expression a mix of amusement and something darker. She's not scared, Ava. She's intrigued. Intrigued? Or foolish? Ava winked, and Lila felt her face warm at the implication. I think it's a bit of both, Lila chimed in, laughter bubbling to the surface despite the tension. But I'm not backing down. Luca's gaze locked onto hers, a spark of admiration flickering in his eyes. I admire your spirit, he said softly, the heat of his gaze sending shivers down her spine. Bravery can lead to interesting places, Lila replied, her voice steady even as her heart raced. And I'm ready for an adventure. Let's see where this adventure takes us then, Luca said, a hint of challenge in his tone. As the night progressed, they moved from playful banter to deeper conversations, each exchange pulling them closer together. Lila could feel the chemistry crackling in the air, each shared glance holding a promise of what could be. The boundaries between them blurred, and she found herself more captivated than ever by the enigma that was Luca. But in the back of her mind, the shadows of his world loomed larger, whispering doubts that she couldn't quite shake. Would she truly be able to handle whatever darkness lay ahead? If you're enjoying this unfolding story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch all the latest chapters. With that thought, she leaned a little closer, ready to dive deeper into the mystery that was Luca, unaware of the storm brewing just on the horizon, threatening to unravel everything she was beginning to cherish. The music pulsed in the background, a steady beat that matched the rhythm of Lila's heart. She glanced at Luca, who seemed momentarily lost in thought. The spark that had ignited between them flickered, and Lila felt a pang of uncertainty. They had ventured deep into their conversation, peeling away layers to reveal the raw truths beneath. But now, that delicate thread of intimacy had been frayed by the mention of her past. Do you ever think about how our past shapes us? Lila ventured, her voice barely above a whisper. She noticed Luca tense slightly at the question, his gaze flickering away from her. It was an instant shift, one that sent an icy draft through the warmth of their connection. I suppose everyone has their demons, he replied, his tone clipped. The walls he had let down moments ago were now rising back up, and Lila couldn't help but feel the weight of his silence. Aren't you curious about mine? She pressed gently, leaning a little closer, her curiosity ignited once again. You know I'm not just this redhead with a quirky job. I've had my share of struggles too. Maybe if you shared a little about your past, I could share mine. Luca turned his gaze back to her, his dark eyes narrowing ever so slightly as if weighing her words carefully. There are some things that are better left unspoken, Lila. Sometimes the past is a burden, not a story to tell. A chill ran down her spine. What had she done? She felt a rush of regret for bringing it up, but she was also determined not to let him lock her out. You're right, she said softly, but isn't it also freeing to let it out? To not carry it alone? He studied her, and for a moment, she thought she saw a flicker of something in his expression, a vulnerability that made her heart race. But then his mask of control slipped back into place. Some burdens are meant to be carried alone, Lila. It's how we survive. Is that what you think? That sharing pain makes you weak, she countered, her voice steady, refusing to back down. I've learned that sharing can be the strongest thing we can do. He chuckled darkly, a sound that dripped with irony. You have a refreshing view of the world, don't you? But trust me, it's a harsh reality out there. The conversation hung heavy between them, the tension palpable. Lila could see a battle waging behind Luca's eyes, and it both intrigued and terrified her. I can handle the truth, Luca. I'm not afraid of the dark. In that moment, the air between them thickened, charged with unspoken words and unacknowledged feelings. She could sense that he was fighting himself, torn between the pull of his guarded nature and the allure of her openness. I'm not like the people you're used to, she added, her voice low and earnest. I don't want to judge you. I want to understand. He shifted in his seat, his jaw tightening as if he were wrestling with his thoughts. Understanding doesn't come without consequences, he finally said, his voice laced with an edge that made her heart race. Maybe I'm willing to take that risk, she replied, feeling the heat of her own conviction. Maybe it's worth it. Just then, Ava approached again, her vibrant energy cutting through the intensity. What's going on here? She asked, her tone light but her eyes sharp as she sensed the charged atmosphere. Just a deep conversation about the shadows lurking in our pasts, Lila said, forcing a smile, hoping to mask the tension. Ava looked between them, her expression shifting from playful to serious. You two look like you're about to dive into a storm. Just remember, not all storms are worth the trouble. Luca's lips curled into a bemused smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. You worry too much, Ava. Lila can handle herself. Oh, I'm not worried about her, Ava replied, her gaze fixed on Lila. I'm worried about you, Luca. You know how dangerous this can get. Lila raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the underlying meaning in Ava's words. She felt a rush of defiance surge within her. I'm not afraid, she declared, looking straight at Luca. I want to know what's behind that facade. Luca's expression darkened momentarily, as if the very idea of exposing his true self was painful. You're playing a dangerous game, Lila. This isn't a fairy tale, and I'm not a prince on a white horse. But that's what makes this so exciting, isn't it? She replied, her heart pounding with adrenaline. The thrill of the unknown. The chance to discover something real, something worth the risk. His gaze softened for just a moment, and Lila felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps he was beginning to see her for who she truly was, a woman willing to brave the darkness to find light. Just be careful what you wish for, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, but she could sense the warning wrapped in his words. Before she could respond, Luca's phone buzzed violently on the table, shattering the moment. He glanced at the screen, his expression changing to one of irritation. I have to take this, he said abruptly, rising from his seat. Lila watched him walk away, the tension of their earlier conversation hanging in the air like a thick fog. She couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just shifted between them, a delicate balance teetering on the edge of revelation. As he spoke quietly into the phone, she took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions inside her. She needed to focus on the present, on the connection they were building. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can follow their journey. When Luca returned, the energy in the room felt different, charged with an intensity that made her heart race. We need to leave now, he said, urgency lacing his tone. Something's come up. Her stomach dropped, and the excitement that had filled her moments ago was instantly replaced by a sense of foreboding. What's going on? She asked, her curiosity piqued, but Luca's expression was unreadable. Just trust me. It's better if you don't ask questions right now, he replied, his voice firm yet laced with an undercurrent of concern. Lila nodded, feeling a thrill of anxiety mixed with anticipation. Whatever was happening, she was in this with him, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. Lila felt the weight of the moment settle heavily on her shoulders as Luca's urgency hung in the air. She followed him out of the cafe, her heart racing not just from fear of the unknown but from the lingering tension that had crackled between them moments before. The streets outside were bustling, echoing with laughter and the chatter of life continuing unabated. But for Lila, everything felt suspended, as if the world had paused to witness her next move. What's going on? She asked again, trying to keep her voice steady. She caught a glimpse of Luca's expression as he glanced over his shoulder. His face was a mask of determination, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of something deeper, something she couldn't quite place. Just trust me, he replied, his voice clipped, leaving no room for further questions. She nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at her insides. She wanted to press him for more information, but she also felt an irresistible pull to follow him into whatever storm awaited. They reached a sleek black car parked a few blocks away. Luca opened the passenger door for her with a practiced ease, his demeanor as cool as the metal of the car itself. As she settled into the plush leather seat, she couldn't help but admire the way he moved, confident, purposeful, and undeniably captivating. As he slid into the driver's seat, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into a world far removed from her own. Where are we going? She asked, curiosity bubbling beneath the surface of her anxiety. Somewhere safe, he said, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. I'll explain everything as soon as we get there. His tone allowed no argument, and deep down, she understood that he was trying to protect her, but she still felt a rush of frustration. The car sped through the city, the lights blurring into streaks of color as they passed. Lila's mind raced with thoughts of what could possibly be so dangerous that they had to leave in haste. She wanted to reach out to him, to break the silence that had fallen between them like a heavy curtain, but the tension felt too charged, too fragile. Luca, she finally said, breaking the quiet, if this is about the conversation we were having earlier, I want you to know I'm serious about wanting to understand you. He turned to her, his gaze piercing. It's not just about us, Lila. There are forces at play that you're not aware of, things that could put you in danger. His words hung in the air, and Lila felt a chill run down her spine. Danger? What kind of danger? He sighed, the tension in his shoulders easing just a fraction as he glanced at her. My world isn't safe, Lila. There are people who don't take kindly to curiosity. Is this about the Mafia? She pressed, a thrill of adrenaline shooting through her veins. Because if it is, I'm not afraid. I want to know what I'm getting into. His eyes narrowed slightly, and she could see the internal battle waging within him. It's not something you can just walk away from, Lila. Once you're in, there's no going back. I don't want to walk away, she replied firmly. I want to be in your world, Luca. I want to understand you, understand everything. For a brief moment, something flickered in his expression, hope, maybe? But just as quickly, it vanished, replaced by the hardened mask he often wore. You're playing with fire, and I don't want to see you get burned. Maybe I'm willing to take that risk, she challenged, a surge of determination welling up inside her. I'd rather face the danger with you than live without knowing the truth. He glanced over at her, and this time his gaze lingered, a storm of emotions swirling within. You really don't know what you're asking for, do you? Maybe not, she replied, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of feelings swirling in her chest. But I'm ready to find out. Just then, the car slowed to a stop outside a sleek, modern building that loomed over them like a fortress. We're here, Luca said, and she felt a jolt of anticipation course through her. They stepped out, and as they walked inside, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that they were crossing a threshold into a new reality, one that would forever change the course of her life. The lobby was luxurious, with marble floors and elegant decor, but it was the air of power that enveloped her that truly took her breath away. Luca led her to an elevator, and as the doors closed, she felt the tension between them crackle once more. This is my safe space, he said, his voice low and serious as they ascended. But I need you to promise me something. Anything, she replied, her heart pounding. That you'll stay close to me and not wander off. If things go sideways, I need to know you're safe. I promise, she said, feeling a mix of fear and exhilaration. When the doors opened, they stepped into a private penthouse that seemed to breathe opulence. Lila glanced around, taking in the breathtaking views of the city skyline and the luxurious furnishings. But as Luca moved further inside, she sensed the weight of something darker lingering beneath the surface. Now, can you tell me what's really going on? She asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Lila, he began, his tone serious, there are people who are watching us, people who don't want you to know the truth. She felt a shiver of apprehension, but the fire of determination within her remained unextinguished. Then let's face them together. Luca's eyes held a storm of emotions as he stepped closer, the air thick with unspoken words. In that moment, she felt the gravity of their situation, the uncharted territory they were about to navigate together. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can keep up with their journey. As they stood on the brink of revelation and danger, Lila knew that whatever came next, she was ready to face it, ready to plunge into the depths of the unknown with Luca by her side. As Lila stood in the opulent penthouse, her heart raced with a mix of exhilaration and fear. The breathtaking view of the city skyline felt like a distant dream, but she was acutely aware of the reality that surrounded her. Luca's presence was magnetic, drawing her in while simultaneously warning her of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. What do you mean there are people watching us? Lila asked, trying to maintain her composure despite the unease settling in her stomach. She took a step closer to Luca, desperate to bridge the gap between them. Luca ran a hand through his dark hair, the frustration evident on his face. You need to understand that my life isn't just about power or money. It's about survival, Lila. There are those who would do anything to protect their interests, even if it means harming innocent people. She could see the weight of his words in his eyes, the flicker of vulnerability that he rarely allowed to surface. And you think I'm innocent? She challenged, crossing her arms defiantly. In this world, innocence is a rare commodity, Luca replied, his voice low and serious. I don't want you to lose that. Lila took a deep breath, grounding herself. I can handle the truth, Luca. The more you tell me, the more I can help you. He shifted slightly, his gaze lingering on her. Help me? You don't even know what you're getting into. In that moment, Lila felt a surge of determination. No, I don't. But I want to learn, about you, about this world. I refuse to be left in the dark. Luca's expression softened, if only for a moment. You're strong, Lila. I admire that. But strength can also be a burden. Then let me share that burden with you, she said, her voice steady. We can face whatever comes together. He studied her for a long moment, as if trying to gauge her resolve. You say that now, but when the time comes, will you still feel the same? I won't back down, she asserted, her heart racing as she felt the intensity of his gaze. I'm not afraid of the truth. Just then, the phone on the sleek coffee table buzzed, breaking the charged atmosphere. Luca reached for it, his brows furrowing as he glanced at the screen. It's my brother, he said, his tone shifting. I need to take this. Lila nodded, stepping back to give him space. She watched him closely, noting how the tension in his posture returned as he answered the call. Yeah? Luca's voice was clipped, all business now. What do you want? Lila couldn't hear the response, but she could see the way Luca's expression hardened, his jaw tightening as he listened. The weight of his world was palpable, and she felt a deep-rooted urge to reach out to him, to remind him he wasn't alone in this. After a moment, he hung up and turned to her, his eyes dark with concern. We have a problem. There's been a breach in our security. What does that mean? Lila asked, her heartbeat quickening. It means someone is getting too close to knowing things they shouldn't. I need to handle this. Handle it how? She pressed, unwilling to let him retreat into his protective shell. By keeping you safe, he replied, his voice firm. I can't have you involved in this. Lila felt a spark of frustration. You can't just shut me out, Luca. I want to be a part of this, to help you. He stepped closer, his expression fierce. You think you want that, but you don't understand the risks. I can't let anything happen to you. Then let me help you protect what matters most, she said, her voice softening. I care about you, Luca. I want to be there for you. For a moment, silence enveloped them as they held each other's gaze, the air thick with unspoken emotions. The distance between them felt charged, electric. Lila, he began, but she could see the conflict in his eyes. I'm not afraid of you or your world, Luca. I want to face it with you. Just, trust me. He hesitated, the tension palpable. You have to promise me that if things get dangerous, you'll listen to me. Your safety is my priority. I promise, she replied earnestly. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, jolting them both. Luca's demeanor shifted instantly, his protective instincts kicking in. Stay here, he commanded, moving toward the door. No. Lila exclaimed, following him. I'm not going to hide while you face whatever that is. If we're in this together, then I'm coming with you. He turned back to her, his expression a mix of admiration and exasperation. You're unbelievable. And you're not getting rid of me that easily, she shot back, her heart pounding with adrenaline. With a reluctant nod, Luca took her hand as they stepped into the hallway together. The suddenness of their connection ignited a spark that neither of them could ignore. As they moved cautiously down the corridor, Lila felt the weight of the moment. This was their chance to confront whatever danger lay ahead, hand in hand, and she was ready to fight for him, ready to fight for them. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Lila's heart raced not just from fear, but from the thrill of being on the edge of something profound. With every step they took, she felt their bond strengthening, ready to face the unknown, side by side. As Lila and Luca stepped into the dimly lit corridor, a cold draft swept through the space, sending shivers down her spine. The tension between them was almost palpable, a mixture of adrenaline and unspoken feelings that hung heavily in the air. Lila could feel her heart racing, not just from fear of the unknown but from the thrill of being so close to Luca, a man who was both a mystery and a danger. What was that crash? She whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Each step they took felt like a step deeper into a world she had only glimpsed from afar. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were teetering on the edge of something monumental. Luca glanced back at her, his expression serious. Stay close to me, he commanded, his voice low but firm. I need to know you're safe. Lila nodded, taking a deep breath as they moved cautiously forward. She could see the muscles in his back tense, the way he focused on every sound, every shadow. This was not just about her anymore, it was about them, standing together against whatever threat loomed ahead. As they reached the end of the hall, Luca paused, placing a hand on her shoulder. If anything happens, I want you to run. Do you understand? No, Lila replied defiantly, shaking her head. I'm not running. I'm here with you, and I won't leave your side. He searched her eyes, and for a fleeting moment, Lila saw the vulnerability beneath his tough exterior. You don't know what you're asking for, he said softly. Maybe not, she admitted, but I'm willing to find out. I want to be part of your world, Luca, no matter how dangerous it is. Just then, another crash echoed from the other side of the building, more violent this time. Luca's eyes hardened, and he turned, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Lila's heart raced in sync with his, and as they moved, she felt an exhilarating mix of fear and determination. They reached a doorway that led to a larger room, and Luca pushed it open cautiously. The scene before them was chaotic, tables overturned, chairs scattered, and a group of men in dark clothing arguing heatedly. Lila's instincts kicked in, and she instinctively stepped closer to Luca, her heart pounding in her chest. What's going on? She whispered, her eyes darting around the room. Luca's jaw clenched as he assessed the situation. Looks like a power struggle, he murmured, his eyes narrowing. And it's not going to end well. Suddenly, one of the men spotted them, his gaze shifting to Luca first, then landing on Lila. Boss, he shouted, and the room fell silent, all eyes turning toward them. Luca straightened, his posture shifting into one of authority. What's happening here? He demanded, his voice resonating powerfully across the room. The men shifted uneasily, and Lila could feel the tension crackling in the air. We were discussing the breach, one of the men said cautiously. But now it seems we have company. Luca's eyes darkened, and Lila felt a surge of protectiveness for him. This was his world, and she was intruding upon it, yet she couldn't help but feel drawn to him, to his strength and the way he commanded respect. I need to know who's behind this, Luca said, his voice low and dangerous. And if anyone here is involved, I want names. The men shifted again, the atmosphere thick with fear and loyalty. Lila realized how much power he wielded, how his presence alone could sway the room. It was both exhilarating and terrifying to witness. I'll find out who did this, Luca continued, his gaze unwavering. And if anyone tries to threaten what's mine, they'll regret it. Lila felt a rush of admiration for him. This was the man she had come to know, someone who cared deeply but was also fiercely protective. The realization hit her like a wave, she was in love with him, despite the dangers that surrounded them. As the men began to speak in hushed tones, Lila took a step closer to Luca, her heart pounding. What do you need me to do? She asked, ready to help him in any way she could. He looked down at her, surprise flickering across his features. You shouldn't be involved in this, he warned, but there was a softness in his voice that belied his words. I won't let you face this alone, she insisted, meeting his gaze with determination. Whatever it takes, I'm with you. Luca hesitated, and in that moment, Lila saw the struggle within him. He wanted to protect her, but he also wanted to let her in, to share the burden of his world. The men around them fell silent, their eyes shifting between Luca and Lila, as if they sensed the gravity of the moment. Luca's expression softened, and he nodded slightly. Okay, he said quietly. Just promise me you'll be careful. I promise, she replied, feeling a surge of warmth at his trust in her. Before they could speak further, one of the men stepped forward, urgency in his tone. Boss, we need to act fast. If we don't find out who's behind this breach, we're all at risk. Luca's demeanor shifted again, his focus sharpening. Then let's get to work, he commanded. As the group began to strategize, Lila felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had stepped into a world of danger, but she wouldn't back down. With Luca by her side, she felt powerful, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Every moment spent together was a step deeper into their connection, and Lila knew she was exactly where she was meant to be.